Okay, my name is Dorothea Crocker, and I live in Bridgman, Michigan. I was born in Sawyer, Michigan, at home. We moved to Michigan City because my dad had a job on the railroad. When we lived with my grandma Swark, we lived on a farm. We had to pick berries, um, and even this is when we were older and we were still home. If we went out at night and didn't get home until 2 o'clock in the morning, we had to still get up. My dad sold the grapes to Welch's for jelly, and I don't know about wine back then, grape juice and jellies and stuff. No, we were poor, but we were okay. There were 8 children. Yeah, we had a good life. We weren't rich, but we always had food on the table, although sometimes during the Depression, we went to different places that had food for people that were needy. But my mother and dad would take us there and drop us off. But the adults weren't allowed to eat. They had to go home and figure out something. But at Thanksgiving, we would go there, and holidays, we would go there to get, they fed us. And we didn't realize that we didn't have any money. I mean, that's the way we lived. I mean, that was life at that point. It was okay. I mean, that was part of life. We didn't know any different. We knew that my dad and mother worked very hard because of the amount of kids that they had. But my mother always had a job outside of the house. I think that it depended on your family, whether you needed to work. With my dad, I'm sure he didn't make that much money, and with 8 kids, or 7, or whatever it was at that time, you had to have extra income. I can't remember what year my dad died, but my mother came home from work, and his lunch was still on the table. She always made lunch and left it sit out for him. And his lunch was still there. So then she went out looking for him and found him in the grape patch where he had died. I can remember when Japan struck Pearl Harbor. We saw it on television, but they didn't show bodies and things. It's just we get so much more information now. But again, it's not in my backyard, so you go about your day and don't think about all the people that have been killed. We weren't as knowledgeable as it is now. Like I sit here in the morning and watch Ukraine. Well, you actually see bodies and what have you. World War II, you heard about it, but you didn't see it, and that's a big difference. I knew my brothers were in the service, but we thought that was kind of neat. That you don't think of the danger. You think they've seen parts of the country they've never seen either. Unfortunately, nobody was hurt in our family. I don't think we acted like twins. Well, we did, because we would go to dances on weekends. We would walk up to Red Arrow Highway and get a bus. There was a bus that went to Bridgman, and there was a theater there, and there was a dance hall, and at the Legion there was a dance. But my mother let us do a lot of stuff because there were 2 of us. Like Aunt Betty couldn't go to the dance because she was by herself, and we didn't want her with us. So there was advantages, and there were disadvantages. You never got to go by yourself. I was the bossy one. If I didn't like something she did, she knew about it. But she never, we weren't buddy close. I think Dolores was more content with Betty. I had to be busy or nosy or out having fun. I was very independent and obnoxious. It's my way or no way, so. That was my next story. Okay. When we would go to Stevensville to the dances, he was there. He had just got home from the service, and he liked to dance, and I loved to dance. So we would meet there, and we'd have a good time, and he would go home, and I'd go home. And eventually he asked me to go out, and we did. And so we went dancing every night. But that's what people did then. I mean, that was our entertainment. We didn't go to the movie or anything. We went to wherever there was music that we could dance to. Sometimes you went to weddings that we weren't even invited to, but we knew the band. So that's what we did, yeah. Ended up getting married, yeah. He proposed to me at the lake. There was a fair in LaPorte, Indiana. I was in my senior year at New Troy, and then we got engaged in August of that year, 47. I was the first one in our class to get engaged, so that was big stuff. Yeah, I didn't have any plans. I never thought about going to college or anything. My friend Paulette, her dad owned the newspaper, and Paulette and I didn't really write stories because I didn't like it, but I would find something that I thought was interesting, and then Polly or her dad would look at it and, come up with a story in that. I think Judge Hammond was at the funeral. And I said to Judge Hammond, I said, have you ever had a lady? He said, I don't know. Somehow or other, Judge Hammond called Grandpa and said, do you think your wife would like to be the JP? I did. It's the first lady magistrate in Berrien County. We collected fines, or not fines, bail money. And at that time, we had to handwrite receipts. So Mondays were really busy because the phone would be ringing and getting the money ready to deposit. But we handled 90-day misdemeanors. We could marry people. And my first office was right on the side here. And then we grew. One time when I made a huge mistake, when truck drivers, I didn't have very many truck drivers because most of them went to the magistrate in New Buffalo. But he was overweight on several axles. I don't remember exactly. But the book said this is how much you charge a pound or axle or what have you. And I don't remember the total, but as he left, I thought, Dorothea, that's not right. I had put the decimal spot in the wrong place. And instead of it being $1,000, it was $100. And I had to, as soon as I realized it, I called my boss, Judge Hammond, and he said, don't worry about it. You said you made a mistake, so you made a mistake. Well, the same truck driver got another stopped in New Buffalo, and Betty Gibson wasn't available, so he had to come down to me. And the guy said, oh, no. The police officer said, oh, no, you're not going to Bridgman. You're going to St. Joe. See, he knew that I made the mistake, and he wanted it again. And then I also did weddings. One couple came, and I married them. And then a couple days later, the county called me back and said, do you know that license was expired? I had to call the couple and ask them to come back. They never came back. So maybe they were divorced by then or something. I only did one person that I put in jail because I couldn't, it's hard. But there was this young boy from New Troy. He loved to get in trouble. I said, you've been threatened and you've been warned and warned and warned. And I said, I feel badly, but I have to put you in jail. I don't think he ever came back again. It was an interesting job. It wasn't all just work. It wasn't all just work. Made some very, very good friends, very, very good friends. And still have some of them, I was a first lady bus driver in Bridgman. I was up to school for something. And I must have said to the superintendent, have you ever had a lady bus driver? And I think he probably said no. And anyhow, I ended up getting hired. I was the first lady bus driver, and one member of the school board didn't like that because I was a lady driving the school bus. And he would follow me. And one day I went up to the superintendent and I said, if that man follows me again, I'm going to back into him. And I would have. Mr. Swartz said, I think that you probably would. I said, well, then warn him. And he never followed me again. So I was willing to try different stuff. Yeah. I enjoyed it, but I think I missed out on a lot by working rather than spending time with the kids. I guess you do what you have to do, and we must have needed the money, or I don't think I would have done it. Yeah. I think I missed a lot. Yeah, probably. Mm. It was exciting. It was exciting. Gail lived at Sister Lakes when she had Stacy, I think. Ed and your mom came over, we sat at the kitchen table, and they said, we got something to tell you. Well, we knew right away. I was well enough known, or whoever wasn't on it, they knew who I was. When the casino wanted to come in, and people were very opposed to it, and I would come home at night and my phone would be full of people that wanted to talk. You know, why are you voting for that, blah, blah, blah. I wished I'd saved some of the comments. But nobody wanted that casino here, and it would have been good money. It would have been good money. You have to ask. You can't just vote, you know. That's why I think there's more ladies coming out, because the guys don't want to hurt your feelings by opposing something that you think's a good reason. And that's what happened the year that I got beat by one vote, because somebody was out after me, supposedly, and I didn't campaign. And so when I got beat by one, they said, well, don't you want to have a recount? And I said, not really. I had served my time and I enjoyed it, and then it was time for somebody else. So we'll never know whether it was a mistake. I volunteered over the juvenile center. That was a volunteer job, yeah. And when I was there, they were using school books that were 20 years old. And I said, how can you do this? But they didn't have any money, supposedly. But you also learned how some of those kids live life. They didn't, if they had time to go home, they didn't want to go home, because they got a meal here, they had a place to sleep. And sometime they'd come back and they'd tell stories of what had happened when they were home. It wasn't always a pleasure to let them go. I enjoy people. I enjoy people, and I guess that I just enjoyed being involved. It's fun to kind of see what's going on, and you meet interesting people, yeah. So, and you can do as much as you want or as little as you want. I've had an interesting life.